the West Loop is like booming right now. I mean, you got some of the hottest restaurants in the city, definitely in the Midwest, maybe in the country, going up in the West Loop. I mean, it's popping. And you got West Town, which is hotter in real estate than West Loop. So again, I get a 2.2 and $500,000 in the West Loop, and I get a 2.2, $500,000 in West Town. I'm selling that one in West Town in 24 hours or less. I'm selling that one in West Loop like 30 to 60 days. I mean, you could walk out your door and go to the, 5 of the coolest restaurants in the country, and I could walk out my door in West Town and I got nothing. Like nothing. Like, makes no sense. This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy, giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate. We cover market trends, news, and give you the honest answers that will keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Zenlist. Do you want to know the secret to growing a high-volume real estate business? It's not just about generating the most leads. The key to success for Laricy's agents is providing the best client experience. We put our clients on Zenlist because we know that they're getting the modern, mobile experience they not only want, but expect from their agent in this day and age. Using Zenlist with our clients put us all together in a shared space where we could work together during the home search process, which helps us be efficient and provides our clients the VIP treatment. Sign up for Zenlist using code LARICYLIVE, no spaces, all lowercase, to save $240 on your first year's subscription. Laricy Live is also brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and the best place to close your property. All right, so today we are talking all about that balance, man, right? That's balance it's a big millennial word. Now, personally, I don't believe in balance. I don't really think it exists. I got the whole work down, but not the whole life part down. But we're not talking about work-life balance here, guys. We're not. We're just talking about the imbalance that's going on in the marketplace. Not only just in the city compared to the outskirts, but also just compared to like how different aspects and price points are kind of working. So let's kind of first off start and talk about what us defining like what the outskirts are. Okay. So like the outskirts are going to be like Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Roscoe Village, Lincoln Square, North Center, West Town, Wicker Park, those type areas. Think smaller buildings, tree-lined streets. And the downtown markets are, South part of Old Town, Gold Coast, River North, Streeterville, New East Side, the Loop, South Loop, and West Loop. That's going to be downtown. Now, I know some people get offended when I say outskirts, etc., but I'm just saying this to make sure that, it's easier for me to kind of explain instead of having to say, Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Wicker Buck, etc. So outskirts are those areas. The downtown's like the heart of the city because there's this big imbalance going on, and when we talk about it, it's just going to be easier for the flow purposes. So why is there such a difference in the marketplace? So there's a big difference. The outskirts are red hot. I'm talking like unbelievably hot. Low inventory, multiple bid central. It is absolutely insane. And then the downtown markets, most of them are like, some stuff sells fast. Some stuff doesn't. It's like good. And then you got some, your luxury stuff downtown is like absolutely dead. So there's a difference. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that some people are looking more for neighborhoody streets lately. People aren't going back to work. Crimes have been bad in certain parts of the area. So a lot of these things are affecting why there's such a drastic difference in the marketplace. What price point is the hottest? So in the outskirts, under $500,000 is like batshit crazy. It's like insane. It's like you put something on under $500,000 in the outskirts, it's like you have like a line around the corner of people trying to get into it. In the heart of the city, that under like 400, it's like doing as like is the best out of the entire marketplace. Single family homes on the outskirts are also doing insanely hot as well. Why are rates not bringing down the prices? This was a big thing I got in fights with Wall Street Journal and Forbes about at the end of last year. I remember, we get interviewed just like every other realtor does to be quoted in magazines and stuff. And both publications reach out to me and to ask to be quoted on how much do I think price is going to drop in Chicago? And I said, well, what's going to be the driving factor for why prices are going to drop in the city, right? Because, a lot of people are like, well, it's common rule, like rates go up, prices come down. I said, well, why are prices going to come down if, over like 95% of people in the city have a rate that's under 3.5%? Like, what's going to be the motivation for those people to buy up? Like, why am I going to be locked in at 3.5%, say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and sell, okay, and I'm going to buy up, and a lot of places where I want to move to, the prices are super high, and then I'm going to take a rate that's around 7%, so I'm going to double my rate. Like, where's the motivation to do that? And, both publications didn't have an answer for me. And I said, well, you guys, and I've talked about this before, the law of supply and demand, like if there's not a lot of supply and you have excess demand, like why would prices drop? Now, I know that like according to a lot of the economics factors out there, the people who study this stuff say like when rates go up, prices come down. I don't think that's necessarily true. It's not as clear cut as supply and demand rule is. And the fact is that like rates were also at an all-time low. They never been that low in history. And in today, rates are just at an American average. So it's not like rates are like 20% and that's why price is going to start plummeting. I mean, rates are, today they're around like 6.5%. I don't know what they'll be when this podcast comes out, but like, it's not like a crazy rate. So again, it's not driving people to sell and it's not driving demand to go away. So as a result, we're not seeing prices go down. And honestly, I don't see prices going backwards for quite some time. I have a $500,000 listing in Streeterville. What can I expect? If it's a 1-bedroom, it'll be pretty dead. If you have a 2-bedroom, you could probably expect like one showing every 10 to 14 days, and hopefully sell within 120 days. That's what you can expect. It's going to be a slow market. So if you got a friend that just sold a place in Lakeview, is like, hey, I got a $500,000 2-bedroom and I got 50 offers, and you got a 2-bedroom in Streeterville for $500,000, you've had no offers, and you're like, what the heck? My agent sucks. It's like, well, it's not really the agent. It's a different market. I realize it's only a couple miles away, but it's a totally, totally different marketplace. Between the downtown markets, what's the hottest and what's the worst? So the hottest part of the downtown market would be the West Loop, okay? That one's performing the best. The one that's performing the worst is the Loop. I think it's a pretty logical reason why the Loop is going to be underperforming because of people lack of back to work and the high crime rates. But the West Loop has come roaring back. People forget that, pre-pandemic, the West Loop was the hottest market, not only in the city, but one of the hottest markets in the country. And it got crushed when the pandemic hit because you had a lot of people who specifically in the tech world that moved out of state and went to like, Idaho and Utah and these other states, and the demand went to nowhere. And now as the world reopens up, people are realizing like, hey, the West Loop's hot. There's a lot going on over there right now. If I have a multi-million-dollar condo in the Loop, what are my odds to sell? Under 20% or less, maybe 15% to sell. The problem is that there's just not a huge marketplace for it. Like if we had a chalkboard and we listed like, who are my possibilities to buy, right? International buyer, gone, in-town buyer, maybe put like a half cross through it, like empty nester, like gone, people raising kids, gone, people going back to work, gone. So it's like, there's just not that many people to buy it. Now, again, I'm not saying, somebody's watching this podcast like, I had somebody from China decide to buy a multi-million-dollar condo Loop. Of course you did, okay? It happens, okay? But statistically speaking, if we're going to Vegas and you got to give me odds, like what are my odds to win this hand? Like I'd probably say you got about a 20% chance that that's going to sell. And it has nothing to do with anything else other than the market right there. Right now is just not that great. You have to remember when you're buying and selling, a lot of it's kind of like, it's like the stock market, right? I think every single person that's watching this podcast right now wishes they bought Apple stock in the mid 80s because you'd be sitting on a yacht right now drinking champagne. You could care less what you sell anything for because you're so rich. But we can't, change, the market that we're in today. And right now, today, the market is the worst it's been in that location. So if you're selling a multi-million-dollar place, it's going to be a little bit tougher. If I have a single family home in the outskirts, what are my odds to sell? 100%. Like, let's never say 100%. 95%. Like that's one of the hottest markets there is. It's overwhelming how many people want to buy a single family home, and there's just not enough inventory on single family homes right now. Now, it is a little bit price point specific though. If you have a single family home in the outskirts and it's above $2.5 million, it's definitely not selling to where it was. And if it's above $3 million, it's going to take you a little bit. There's not as big of a market as there was at this time last year. Now, that's not saying, some big restaurant here just bought it like a $6.5 million, single family home yesterday. There was like a $12 million sale like a couple of days ago. So that's not saying that there's not, a lot of multi-million dollar or above $2.5 million single family home sales. I would just say that in our markets, the ultra luxury market's just not where it was compared to last year. Ultra luxury, regular luxury is. Why does inventory seem so low? This is the problem, is that a lot of people freak out about inventory levels in the first 4 to 5 months of the year. And you have to remember, the average consumer that's selling thinks the best time to sell is like end of March, April, and May. That's when they think the best time to sell is. And so the first 3 to 4 months, there's like no inventory in the marketplace. And then by summer, all the inventory hits the market and it sits. And then you got all the sellers in August like, hey, my friend sold this place. It's the same unit in February with 50 offers the first day in the market. We've been in the market for a month. Like, what gives? Well, what gives is the fact that there's a different market. I'll give you a perfect example. We got fired from this listing on Diversity. Okay. We had like no showings. Okay. And I kept telling the seller to pull the property off the market. I'm like, listen, you got to pull the property. There's just no market for it. It was November. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, this place will fly in the springtime. He got mad about it not selling in the fall. He let us go, hired somebody else in March and raised the price by $20,000. I got multiple bids and sold first weekend. Now I'm sure we look terrible, but again, I can't change the marketplace. Nothing was selling in the fall, and in the spring, a ton of stuff sells. So if you're a seller out there watching being like, well, I want to sell this fall, it's like, yeah, you could sell in the fall. You're just going to have to price it differently. You're going to get a different price in the fall than you can get in the spring. You can't get spring pricing in the fall. So that's why inventory seems low right now, is that, the average consumer that's selling just is waiting to sell, and they're going to miss the market, and they're going to get ultimately less money for it. The press said prices would fall. Why haven't they? I mean, this is another big thing, not only just about rates, but people keep talking about like, prices are, expected to drop 25% this year, maybe more. We're going to hit a housing recession. If I have to hear this from one more buyer, that, the market's terrible and that I want to get in now because the market's bad, it's like, why? Like, who told you the market's bad? And so we're doing this podcast even today talking about this. Like, the market's not bad. The market's not bad at all. Now, in certain parts of the market, it might be like a little bit more difficult, but I wouldn't use the word bad. Sure, in Florida and Arizona, prices have dropped maybe 25% in some parts of the marketplace because, the prices went up so much. But, we're in a market where our price growth didn't really go up that much. We didn't see like a huge price growth. So, yeah, that's why prices aren't falling. My dad's dog sitter's mailman's friend told me the market's going to be bad next week. Is this true? That's another one, is that whenever anybody's buying or selling real estate, they think that, the worst is going to happen. They do a bunch of fear mongering about, the market's going to fail. Sure, there could be a reason why the market's going to fail. I mean, I've been hearing about this since before COVID started, that the market was going to fail. And so far it hasn't. I'm not saying it's not going to soften up a little bit, but we're definitely going to see, we're not going to see the market like completely plummet like we did in, 2008 anytime soon. How is back to work affecting the downtown marketplace? We are seeing more and more people go back to work. This is a big thing that the heart of the city needs to improve and make the market a little bit more balanced, is we need to see more people going back to work. The more people who go back to work, the more in-demand properties become, the more in-demand properties become down there, the more retail comes, the more restaurants come, and then next thing you know, that market is back, and then, we're back to a balanced market. But, back to work is a huge portion of why, that market is doing, worse than it should. We're hovering around 48 to 52% of people back to work, and that's making a big difference. You say the market's strong, but sales are down. Why is that? So, there's sales in average are down first quarter about 25% across all parts of the city. And we're like, yeah, the market's good. It's like, well, here's the thing. There's two reasons. One, there is less inventory in the market, which is going to lead to less sales. And the second thing is that the fourth quarter was so bad that it directly, like, first quarter sales are a direct result of the fourth quarter. When second quarter sales come out, we're going to see that sales are doing pretty well. Now, again, they won't be as strong as last year. So when I say the market's strong, I'm saying in general, it's a good market. But when we look at year over year, yeah, the market's down. Like, it's not like sales are down. But like last year was like it was stupid. Like, it didn't even make any sense. Like, if we look at, this year compared to 21, or 2020 or 2019, like the market's doing just fine. But when you compare it to last year, yeah, it's going to be down. So again, it's all relative. You can't just, we're only as good as our last at bat. So everybody's just looking at last year and be like, well, it's not as good as last year. It's like, well, take last year out of it and we're doing unbelievably well. What does it take to win a multiple bid in the outskirts? So this is another thing. Like, we're talking about this balance. Like the outskirts, you write an offer, there's like 20 offers. Something comes on the market on Tuesday, $600,000 property. They're calling for highest and best by Friday at 5. You're getting, 15 offers on the property. People are going to have to waive their finance contingency, take it as is, not do, well, you're waiving your mortgage contingency, so you can't do an appraisal gap. Okay. So like, that means it's not contingent on appraisal. They want like a term review close, like pretty much ASAP. Some people are not even doing inspections. Closing whenever the person wants, handing over your firstborn. I mean, you got to pretty much do every single thing possible. Oh, and then price. Your price has to be like ridiculously insane. And then the last thing you need to do is make sure that your agent's presenting the offer, guys. I'll tell you, we've had quite a few bids, properties where I've gotten over 10 offers on it. I'll tell you, less than one person is actually calling and presenting the offer. In fact, and I talk about this every podcast, there's been quite a few people that have been ended up right there in my spam box. For some reason, there's a couple of big companies where their emails just automatically go to my spam. So I try to check it as often as I can, but I mean, like, you can't, like, my spam button on my phone for some reason doesn't always pull it up. So if I'm not on my actual computer, I'm going to miss it. Why is the entry-level market so hot? So this is another one I got in a fight with some of the press about. The press was talking about how rents are going to drop, and they keep talking about rents dropping in these papers. I honestly don't know where they're getting the data from, because I can tell you in the markets that I work, rents are like insane. I'll give you an example. Like I have one bedrooms I own. I used to always get anywhere from, 21 to maybe $2,200 a month for maybe. I'm getting 25 to $2,700, like first day on with 50 people applying, willing to give me anything I want. There's just no inventory for it. So what's happening is, and we're seeing this, we got at least 5 or 6 clients in the last week where people are like, hey, it's just the rental market is so hot and I can't find anything. So I want to buy. It's actually pushing renters to become buyers because the rental market's so hot. So that's why the entry level market's hot, because they don't have anywhere to move. And with the entry level buyers market being actually worse than the entry level rental market, it's actually making that market better. How many showings do you expect to get in the outskirts compared to downtown? So this is a big one. Is you are seeing a drastic difference in showings. Like we'll probably get 10 showings on an outskirts property compared to 1 showing on a downtown property. So it's honestly, I'd have to do the math, but it actually might be more. That's actually probably pretty low. I go day 1 with a property in the outskirts, and the showing requests are just insane. I go day 1 on a property in the downtown markets. We're like checking to see if we did anything wrong. We're like, did we miss washer dryer unit? Did we like make this right? Is there, and then our seller's yelling at us because the seller's like, hey, we've been on 2 days and we've gotten no requests. And my friend's got a property up in Lincoln Park and they went on day 1 and they had 50 requests. What's the difference? Well, the difference is there's a ridiculous amount of demand in Lincoln Park and there's 0 demand in the Gold Coast. So, to me, it makes no sense that you could literally be in the top of the Gold Coast and see that Lincoln Park property across the park. And that Lincoln Park property is like out of control. You could see a line of people. If we got a telescope, you'd see a line of people around the corner for an open house. And you got the place in the Gold Coast and there's like dust balls rolling. And you're like a quarter mile away. It makes no sense, but that's the difference in the showing requests. What's the difference in market time between the two markets? I mean, you're looking at an average of 14 days compared to an average of like 60 days. And those are averages, right? I'm not saying like a lot of stuff's not selling in a day or less, or some stuff's not selling in like, 300 days in the downtown markets or more. But, it's short. And market time can be skewed, right? Because like, let's say hypothetically, I got a hot place in Lincoln Park, and the first day I come on the market, I get 6 offers, which is honestly not unheard of at all. I could technically flip the status right then, and it's less than a day on the market time, so I'd bring market time down. But what most agents are doing is they're letting it sit for 5 or 6 days, okay? And you may say, well, Matt, 5 or 6 days doesn't matter. Well, 5 or 6 days, it's an average. It brings up the average, right? And the same thing goes on the sides of the downtown, is that people with the downtown markets, they're listing it and then they're going canceled and relisting it. And if they cancel and relist it, sometimes depending on how you look at the data, if I cancel and relist something in River North and sell it like first day on the market, sometime depending on how you pull the data, I could show that my average market time is lower by doing that. So market time can be a skewed stat. So that's why I don't really like to just go about it, because I could play with that number to make it work for my advantage or against my advantage. But I can tell you is that we're talking months difference between the outskirts and the downtown markets. Months. I hear the international market's coming back in New York. Will that change the market downtown here? I mean, honestly, I did read a huge article by The Real Deal. Shout out to Real Deal. They're a great publication. If you're not reading it, I would definitely subscribe. And the fact that, they did a great article talking about how they're seeing more and more people go internationally are buying down there, and that's actually making their market stronger. It's one of the main things that kept them afloat in the fourth quarter when all the other markets across the country were down. Now, because they're always about a year ahead of us, I am expecting the international market to pick up. We did a podcast on about 6 months ago how we're seeing it back. We're seeing people come back, internationally speaking. It's by no means back today, but you could feel it's getting stronger. And the more and more the world gets opened up, I mean, the more and more the international market's going to open up here. How many multiple bids do you see downtown compared to the outskirts? I mean, if we get multiple bids downtown, it's unheard of. I mean, sometimes we're offering on a property downtown and the agent's like, oh, we have multiple bids. And I literally call them out. I'm like, I don't believe it. Like, I think you're completely and utterly full of shit. Like, I just don't believe it. So if I do get in a multiple bid downtown, I'm usually I would say really aggressive with the other agent that I think he's lying. It just doesn't make any sense. There's so little people buying downtown. So the fact that we're going to see multiple bids, it's almost unheard of. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And technically speaking, you're not supposed to lie about having multiple bids. But there are a lot of people out there that I would say are not what I would call ethical. So if I am in numerous multiple bids downtown, I'm scratching my head. It's just so rare. Now, on the flip side, if I get something on the outskirts, I expect multiple bids. It's just an expectation, like especially in specific price points. If I'm in that like 750 and under, I would say most of my stuff is multiple bids, most of it. Whereas if I got 750 and under in the downtown markets, I'm praying I sell before it gets fired. That's the difference. I mean, that's a pretty drastic difference if you think about it. You're looking at one market that's a half mile away that you're like, hey, definitely get multiple bids. And the other market's like, you've got dust balls rolling past it. Doesn't make sense to me. Really doesn't. What's the difference in activity on a single family home in, say, Lincoln Park compared to the Gold Coast? I mean, we got a single family home in the Gold Coast right now. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know, maybe we had 4 showings on it total. And it's been on the market for about 70 something days. And I'm honestly kind of surprised by the activity we're getting. Kudos to us. That's a lot of activity. How many offers do you get on a 3-2, a 3-bed, 2-bath, $750,000 condo in Roscoe compared to the same place in the South Loop? So a $750,000 condo that's a 3-bedroom in Roscoe Village, I'm selling like I could probably get it done that day. At most 2 to 3 weeks, like at most. I got a 3-bedroom in the South Loop for $750. Like, I hope to sell within 3 months. Hope. Fingers crossed. So again, there's a big difference. I mean, again, the South Loop, most 3-2s are either going to be townhomes or going to be like like some sort of loft, and there's just not as much demand for it. I would say if I went on the market today in the South Loop for a 3-2 with $750,000 price point, I could assume that I'll get maybe 2 showings that first week. That same place in the Roscoe Village area, I would probably get 25 to 30 showings first day. So, I mean, if you think about it, the balance there doesn't even make sense. Is the Bears leaving the South Loop affecting the market down there? Does that have anything to do with it? Not really. I think people are mad that they're leaving. As of right this second, I wouldn't say that's affecting the marketplace, meaning that like we're seeing like a mass exodus out of there. We're seeing values drop. And it's honestly, there's a possibility the Bears may not leave. And there's a lot of people like, They're trying to redo the taxes up in Arlington Heights for them moving there. Pritzker's like super against it. So who knows what will happen? But I mean, I will tell you is that when it comes to the real estate aspect, it's been not affected at all as of now. How are tech layoffs affecting the West Loop? I mean, it's actually making the West Loop stronger because the more people getting laid off, the more tech companies are getting like kind of like cockier of saying like, hey, you got to come back to the office. The more people who come back to the office are making the West Loop stronger. So we're actually seeing the West Loop kind of like really get hotter, not hot, definitely not hot, but getting better because more people are moving back to the city to go back to work. There's a lot of restaurants and apartments getting built in the West Loop. Why is it not as hot as West Town? So that's a great question. Is that like the West Loop is like booming right now? I mean, you got some of the hottest restaurants in the city, definitely in the Midwest, maybe in the country, going up in the West Loop. I mean, it's popping. And you got West Town, which is hotter in real estate than West Loop. So again, I get a 2.2 and $500,000 in the West Loop, and I get a 2.2, $500,000 in West Town. I'm selling that one in West Town in 24 hours or less. I'm selling that one in West Loop like 30 to 60 days. Like makes no sense. And the West Loop, I mean, you could walk out your door and go to the, 5 of the coolest restaurants in the country. And I could walk out my door in West Town and I got nothing, like nothing. And it's trading for higher and faster. So that's a pretty big imbalance. I'd like somebody out there's got to comment, like, why would you rather buy a 2.2 $500,000 West Town than one in West Loop? And like West Loop's on discount right now. I'm telling you right now, a lot of these places, if I got a place in the West Loop on Madison Street, in 2018 or 19, I'd put it on the market. I honestly, I wouldn't even have to put it on the market if I want to. It would sell right away. That same place today, like, sits. It doesn't make sense, and I'm a big believer of when things don't make sense, that's when it's going to change. And I think we're slowly transitioning into a hotter market in that, at least in that part of the downtown market. How is West Town doing compared to Wicker Buck? What about compared to Avondale or Logan? West Town is doing extremely strong. I would say it's about compatible to Wicker Park and Bucktown. Avondale and Logan Square is probably doing a little bit better, at least according to the stats and market time, and like easiness of selling. But it's also because it's cheaper, because the entry level price point is so hot right now, and your dollar, does go farther in Avondale and Logan Square. It's probably on a sales aspect outperforming Wicker, Logan, and West Town, but the other three are more expensive, so that's why there's gonna be a difference there. What do you think? When do you think we'll see more inventory? Now, I mean, this is being shot in May, so what people forget is that you have a big delay in listing, and it also hasn't been nice in weather, so you got a lot of people for some reason, and I don't know why, but a lot of sellers are so attuned to the weather. They're like, well, it hasn't been good weather, so I haven't been that motivated to sell. I'm like, what does weather have to do with it? It's just the same people who I talk in like January, February, be like, well, I didn't want to list because it snowed a lot. Like, snowing doesn't affect the marketplace, guys. Like, I mean, sure, some buyers will kind of stay holed up, but like at the end of the day, like the market's the market. It's not weather related. So like that's one of the reasons why we'll see more inventory, or why we haven't seen as much inventory yet. The second reason is that like some people don't know where to go, right? So if you got if you got a bigger place, or a place that has like a high demand marketplace, like you can't step up. You can't go to the burbs because the burb market's so hot that they don't have anywhere to leave to. How do schools play in the roles for buyers and sellers? Obviously, if you have a better school, the better demand the marketplace is going to be. I have a 1-bed, 1-bath in River North around $300,000. What are my odds to sell? I would say it's pretty high. I would say that you probably have like a 75 to 80% chance to sell, maybe higher. Like that entry level market in the downtown markets is still doing pretty strong. Is Lincoln Park or Lakeview performing better? They're about equal. I mean, Lincoln Park technically is always more expensive, and technically on paper a little bit of an area that tends to trade a little bit quicker. But they're both doing fantastic. I would say that I guess technically Lincoln Park is better than Lakeview, but they're both doing extremely well. if I have a single family home to sell on the outskirts, can I reach on pricing? So yeah, you can over ask. You can ask more than the comps. I mean, you got a single family home and Gold Coast, you have to price it below market value. You got a single family home in the outskirts, you could go above market value and you still probably sell for more than what it's worth in certain price points. If you're in that $2 million plus price point, you're not going to get that. Are people getting cold feet with all these multiple bids? We are seeing more people kill deals because of multiple bids. People they get caught up in the moment and they kill the deal, and that's a common thing that happens around this time of year. I have a condo in Old Town and a high rise, and it seems to be taking longer than my neighbor's place that is a walk up. Why is that? High rises are still struggling to come back. There's just a lot of different factors. Some people are still afraid of coming back to bigger buildings. Maybe we'll get locked down again, whatever it is. But for some reason, we're still seeing bigger buildings sell for less and it takes longer than smaller buildings. What type of buyer is looking into downtown compared to the outskirts? Honestly, usually people that are looking downtown are people either coming from a big metropolitan city like a New York or London or something crazy like that, or they're in the medical field, so they got to go to the hospitals and work, or they're going in the office. That's gonna be the difference. The outskirts people are people who aren't going back to work. It's maybe a couple, and one of them's working from home, and there's just more of that right now in the marketplace, more of that type of demand. Since the downtown market is hard to sell, is it worth investing money into upgrades? I would say so. I mean, places that are that look better and show better are selling faster. I think because there's so much competition downtown, the more you could stand out, the better. So if you are thinking about doing some sort of upgrades, I would do them because it will increase your chances of selling. You will definitely not get your money back, but it'll be a reason why your place sells and somebody else's doesn't sell. I have a budget up to $450. I keep getting outbid. I'm waiving all my contingencies every time. What do I do? Just got to keep trying. I mean, in all honesty, the market's going to start loosening up here soon. But it's just something you have to keep going on, and you got to make sure that your agent's going to bat for you. But we have a lot of people who are like this, and you just have to, one, make sure you move fast, and two, you got to go all in. You can't half step it, you can't second guess it. You just got to push your cards in and do what you can. You got to keep doing it, and eventually something will stick. How many people do you expect to see at an open house in the outskirts compared to downtown? Let's say a $500,000 price point. Okay, if I get a $500,000 price point in the outskirts and I have an open house, I expect to see a minimum of 12 people. Minimum, okay? No, because that's including couples. So let's say a minimum of like 6 to 8 couples, minimum, okay? I got something in the downtowns, I'm expecting one person to come through, one couple, okay? If it's in the $1 million price point, I would say we're going to see 5 to 7 people in the outskirts. And in the downtowns, I'd say 0. And if it's above $1 million, I would say 2 to 4 in the outskirts. And if it's downtown, I would say 0. I would expect to see 0 people. So that's a huge difference, especially in the smaller price points. I'll tell you, lately in our places that are under 500,000, we're having a line around the corner for the open house. And in my downtown stuff, I'm getting 1 or 2 people lately. I know I'm saying my averages are more, but I'm saying it's pretty substantial, the difference. How will summer affect the imbalance in the marketplace? Typically, we see a summer shift happen. Once that summer shift happens, we technically lose about 50% of demand. Now, a lot of people think that the summer market's going to be stronger than it was last year, and myself included, because rates will probably drop a little bit more. There's been a lot of people who just haven't been able to find a place and rents being higher, so we may see a better summer market than normal. But technically, it will not be as competitive as it is now. Will we see this tale of two cities forever? So we talk about this tale of two cities where you have the outskirts being super hot and the downtown markets being bad. It used to be kind of a little bit more of a reversed. I don't think this is a forever thing. I'm a big history guy. Typically speaking, a lot of people like to live in the city, and I think we'll go more towards balance. I think it'll probably be a few years until it completely flips. But, mark my words, probably by at least 2026 or 27, you'll see the downtown markets being stronger than the outskirts. How is the market in the burbs compared to the outskirts? Which is hotter? So the outskirts is our hottest markets, but I mean, we don't sell in the burbs, but if you go to the burbs, it's not even close. The outskirts looks like the downtown market compared to if we compared outskirts to downtown, the downtown market would actually be better than the outskirts compared to the suburbs. The suburbs completely outperforms the outskirts. The suburbs is a different animal. You still see more and more people moving out there. Why does inventory in 3 bedrooms Wait a second. Why does inventory in 3 bedrooms and single-family homes seem to be so low in these first 4 or 5 months in the outskirts? People forget that, if you are selling a bigger place and it's a 3-bedroom plus, those people likely have kids. Not all the time, but likely they have kids. And if they have kids, their kids are probably in a daycare or a school. And a lot of people are in private school. So that means that they've already paid for their kid through like mid to end of June, okay? So if you already paid for your kid to be for mid to end of June, you're not listening to January, February, March because you're not eating that money. And you also don't want to remove your kid from the school halfway through the school years. When you are listening is usually after spring break, is when you start meeting with agents and start getting your act together. And most humans are lazy and we're behind and we use these target deadlines, but we're late. So like by the end of April, beginning of May, people start to finally put it on the market because they're like, well, I want to get it on the market for summer. So typically we start seeing more and more 3 bedrooms and single family homes from like mid-April to the end of July. That's when we start seeing more. And the reason is solely tied to the school systems. It's on a different cycle than the entry-level marketplace. If the economy tanks, how will that affect the downtown market? I'm in full believer that this imbalance will become balanced and then stronger in the downtown markets if the market tanks. If the economy gets worse, more and more offices are going to start taking power and they're going to start forcing employees to go back to work. And the more people are forced back to work, the stronger people are going to want to live around the city. I mean, like take traffic into example. Like if anybody out there is driven between 4 and 6:30 p.m., you can't get anywhere, okay? So it takes me right now to get from River North to Lincoln Park 35 minutes if I'm going between those hours. 35 minutes. It's a 5 or less minute drive, okay? That takes me 35 minutes. So if I'm going to the burbs and it's 35 minutes for me to get out of the city and then I'm sitting in traffic for another hour and a half, that's 2 hours. And it's an hour and a half out. So that's what, 4 hours of my day? You got 24 hours a day. 4 hours of my day sitting in traffic. I think the traffic's going to definitely change the imbalance in the marketplace. I think it's going to be the breaking point, especially as 99.4 keeps getting worse and worse. What is prime time and how is that balanced? Prime time is the hottest time in the market. Okay, so there is no balance in prime time. Prime time is when the market's completely unbalanced. It's when the market's the hottest. Once we hit the summer usually is when the balanced market hits. So if you're really frustrated with where the market's at, just know more balance to the market in general, not just in the outskirts of your downtown, is going to change. What's the difference between prime time and the summer market? The summer market just loses half the demand because people have decided to buy or rent by then. Okay, so pay attention to what I call the summer shift. It's going to change things, but for the foreseeable future, next month or a couple weeks, we're going to remain in prime time. So that's it for the podcast today, guys. Pay attention to a little bit of the balances and imbalances that we have in the marketplace, and stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.